Pika. I stand to speak to the motion before us, and I guess the thing that we have with extremism and violence is that sometimes we become so defensive for two varying sides that we struggle to see peace. I think it's really important for us to use our influence, our sphere of influence, to always look for and find peace. Violence breeds violence, and violence emboldens violence. This afternoon, maybe about 12ish, I made my way back to Parliament to be able to be here in the House. And I experienced the violence of those who are supporting pro-Israel in man-up costumes, who swamped my car, who put their Israel flag all over my windscreen so I couldn't get out and get here.
Yeah,
I normally have my whānau.
All due respect to the member, that's very pleasant. Excuse me, not very pleasant for the member, but I think please stick to the motion.
I will.
There wouldn't be the first person who's had an offensive flag draped over their windscreen.
I normally have my mokopuna, thank you, Pika. I normally have my mokopuna in the car and got to experience what it must be like when you're ambushed and you're living peacefully and you just want to get by from one place to the other. We cannot let peace become so hard, so out of reach, that we lose track of what it is that we're truly debating. And we cannot let those who profit from war and who don't seek peace, until we sit here and take stock and choose not to ignore what we see going on. We are seeing, all of us collectively, some of the worst horrific violence, amputations, limbs of children, people desperately sharing what it is that they're experiencing, so the rest of the world take heed and do what we can to ceasefire and fight for peace. From our perspective, that is about ending genocide. We have seen 16,248 Palestinians being killed. 7,112 of them are children. Every child killed today would still be alive if we had have done what was right by peace. And ceasefire, end genocide, help them to find the right solution by sitting back and doing nothing. And it doesn't really matter who's taking and who's attacking right now, because neither governments in Aotearoa have shown leadership towards what it is that we need to do. We need to be vocal in ending all violence. We need to be vocal in making sure that people are not triggered in extremes in a way that they're able to go about and be so comfortable about disputing who's right or who's wrong. We're seeing the bombing of hospitals. We're seeing the bombing of homes, refugee camps, schools, churches, for goodness sake. That's not self-defence. The use of white phosphorus in densely populated areas is not self-defence. Collective punishment of civilians by cutting off food, water and medical supplies is not self-defence. The murder of tamariki, no matter whose tamariki they are, is not self-defence. We are witnessing the ethnic cleansing and the attempted genocide of a people, the Palestinian people. And as a descendant of Parihaka, I must and always will use my sphere of influence to stand for peace. And I know there can be no peace without justice. And there is debate about who's occupying who. From our perspective, Israel's colonial occupation of Palestine lands, engineered by the British Empire, has led to decades of pain, suffering and bloodshed. We have empathy with that journey, we have empathy with that history, we have connection with that history. The genocidal rhetoric of Israel ministers and officials is well documented. I haven't made this up. The attempts to dehumanise an Indigenous people of Palestine of all faiths and religions must be resisted. Western countries are simply in denial about the long-term aggression because it's too close to home. We're still not comfortable talking about our own history, our own ancestors, and some of the good and the bad and the ugly decisions that they have put us into today. The conflict simply did not start on October the 7th. And I will never, ever accept this House normalising violence experiences and saying it's okay, we've had this happen here before. It's never okay. It's never okay. So Te Pāti Māori is happy to stand in support of this motion, we've just had another one of you, for ceasefire, and ask the government what next. Every world leader has refused the call for a ceasefire. What is this government willing to do to exert pressure on our allies who will ignore this call? The United States has poured billions of dollars into Israel's military. There's a brutal occupation going on. There's savage violence happening. We can no longer provide political cover for US-funded imperialism. We can't sit here and act as if we're not connected to it. You know, and we all know, that Te Pāti Māori has asked to expel the Israeli and US ambassadors and recalling the Israel consulate until a permanent ceasefire is agreed, not a pause, a permanent. It means recognising the state of Palestine. God, how low you get. As we recognise the state of Israel in 1949, never, ever is it okay to ever have violence against anyone, and not a single one of our histories is pure. But what we should do is learn from our history and what we do with our influence today. What is stopping the government right now from introducing Israel sanctions bills to Parliament, just as we did in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, or creating a special visa category for Palestinians displaced by this war, as our allies in Australia have done, as we also did for Ukraine? Imposing economic sanctions is something the government must consider if you are intent on this actual motion being pono and being tika. We cannot, as tangata whenua, we'll always support Indigenous peoples. I don't know why you keep getting really uncomfortable with that. That's who we are.
Think about the use of the term
Te Pāti,
we. Think about the use of the word we.
I don't know.
You, sorry.
Thank you, we. I don't know why we are comfortable with that. Thank you. Te Pāti Māori will continue to fight against the atrocities of violence, colonisation, the intergenerational trauma and extremism it produces. We will always stand for peace. We will always remind us that we must look for peace and amongst all our differing opinions here. Te Pāti Māori will also stand in solidarity with the people of Palestine, our arohas, all those who have lost whānau and friends in this horrific, long, dragged-out war. Our kōtahitangas with the Indigenous communities fighting for their survival in the Palestinian-occupied territories. From the river to the sea, Palestine must be free. Kia ora rā.
Members,